No brain retraining course is going to be 100% perfect. Always just take what resonates with you and then leave the rest. Hey my friends, today I'm going to share my experience with the Gupta program, which is a brain retraining program to help those with chronic illness regulate their nervous system and shift out of a chronic survival and fight or flight state to a parasympathetic state where the body can actually go into rest and repair mode and healing can actually start to take place. And if you've been around here for a while, you'll know that I started with the DNRS program about 14 or 15 months ago now. And I actually went through the Gupta program about 4 or 5 months later just to see if I could gain any new insights. And while there are a lot of similarities between the Gupta program and DNRS, there are actually a lot of differences. And so I'm going to go into those, and I'm also just going to share with you the pros and cons of the Gupta program, at least in my own experience, and hopefully give you a better idea of what to expect if you're planning to start the Gupta program. I know sometimes there's kind of a little bit of confusion around what brain retraining programs involve, and there's nothing secret about it. There's nothing magic about it. They're just toolkits to help you to learn how to regulate your nervous system. It's something that I would only recommend doing if you're willing to put in a lot of time and efforts and make significant changes in your life. These programs certainly aren't magic. They don't heal you. They help give you tools to help regulate your nervous system so that your body can heal. So essentially, you are healing you, not the Gupta program, not the DNRS program, but your body has an innate ability to heal. And this is something that most people are not very familiar with. It's something that modern medicine largely doesn't embrace. And so that's why I think it's really, really helpful for those with chronic illness to start with one of these programs as they begin to regulate their nervous system. So one of the most common questions I get is, would I recommend the DNRS program or the Gupta program? And that's a hard question to answer because both programs definitely have their pros and cons. There are things I love about both DNRS and Gupta, and there are things that I really don't like about both DNRS and Gupta. Both DNRS and Gupta offer a free trial for their programs with just the first couple of modules of the program. And I'll put the link to both of their websites in the description so that you can sign up for their free trial. Often I'll recommend that people just go through those free trials just to see which style they feel fits best for them. But in this video, I'll share some more of the differences and just basically an overview of what the Gupta program entails, what I feel it really does well, and what I feel it might be lacking. Something I really liked about the Gupta program from the beginning is I felt like it was much more focused on compassion. He actually has this saying, do your best and leave the rest. And so there's kind of a difference between Gupta and DNRS in this way. So the Gupta program is much more, it's okay if you don't do everything perfectly. It's okay if you miss a day of rewiring. But the DNRS program is very much do this with military-like commitments and do an hour a day and don't miss the practice. Both programs can work well for people depending on personality type. Actually, for me, I felt like in the beginning of my brain retraining, it was really nice to have that set structure of, okay, you have to do an hour a day, and that helped to really motivate me to be very consistent with my brain retraining. But for some people, that might be too much, and they might find that the Gupta program is much more fitting for them. Another thing that I really like about the Gupta program is I felt that it was much more holistic with its healing toolkits. DNRS was very focused on brain rewiring, letting go of limiting beliefs, redirecting negative thought patterns, and the Gupta program definitely incorporates all those things, but they also talk about getting the morning sunlight and reducing blue light exposure and having proper nutrition. Even though I don't agree with his nutrition recommendations, at least he talks about eliminating processed foods. I thought that was really good because the DNRS program kind of doesn't touch on those things really at all, and those things have been really important for me in my nervous system regulation and brain retraining and visualization is only one type of nervous system regulation. There's so many things that we can do to regulate our nervous system, and I really appreciated that the Gupta program incorporates things like connecting with nature and getting out to have morning sunlight and going on walks and meditation, which I'll touch on in a little bit here. I also felt like the Gupta program was filmed in a more professional way than the DNRS program. And I have the workbook here, and the workbook actually has all of the modules written out, and so if you are someone that likes to follow along with text whenever you're listening to something, that's really helpful. And if you got this far in the video, you'll probably think like, oh, she really recommends Gupta over DNRS, but honestly, I'm still very glad that I started with the DNRS program and not the Gupta program, because I felt like the structure of the visualizations and the brain retraining itself was what I needed at that time when I started retraining. It quite literally changed my life and was the best money that I spent on my health. But I do want to be honest in the things that I didn't like so much about the DNRS program as well as the Gupta program. I also felt like the Gupta program did a great job of explaining the science behind neuroplasticity and nervous system dysregulation, and why nervous system dysregulation can cause serious, severe chronic illness, and why it's so important to regulate the nervous system to get out of that chronic survival crisis state so that the body can actually start to heal. I think sometimes when people hear about brain retraining, they have this initial reaction of, oh, my illness is real, it's not in my head, and so brain retraining couldn't help me. But these programs are not at all suggesting that illness is in your head. It's suggesting that your nervous system has become so dysregulated that it's causing severe physical illness. And it's important to remember that the nervous system is the control center of the body, and so it governs the immune system, your digestive system, your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system. And so literally any system of the body can be affected and can be impaired. And so I do think that the Gupta program did a great job of explaining this. Another thing about the Gupta program is that he does put a lot of emphasis on meditation, which is something that really isn't brought up at all in the DNRS program, and it's something that I have benefited from. I think it's certainly not a replacement for the visualizations and the brain rewiring exercises, and he's very clear about that, but I think it's a really helpful and important tool for a lot of people. So I like that that is emphasized in the Gupta program, and there are lots of meditations that come with the program that you can just listen to. The Gupta program also goes into parts work, which is something that I don't remember being emphasized in the DNRS program, and I found that to be really interesting and helpful. That part of the program definitely was a little bit cheesy. He was using puppets, so that kind of gives you an example of the cheesiness of it, and DNRS definitely has cheesy parts too. There are actually parts of DNRS where I cringe a little bit just because I don't love the way that it's presented, even though the information is so helpful and so valuable. Okay, so here's one of the main differences between the Gupta program and the DNRS program. So with the DNRS program, you do 15-minute practice rounds, and you do 4 of those a day. And so those practice rounds consist of past and future visualizations where you're healthy and strong, and there are specific brain rewiring steps that you do before you go into that rewiring visualization. And both programs have a process before going into the visualization where you kind of say certain things and do certain hand motions. So with the DNRS program, the visualizations are actually significantly longer than the Gupta program. At least from what I gathered after going through the Gupta program, the visualizations are 3 to 5 minutes long, they're shorter, and they're more frequent. He says just do them whenever you feel triggered. And for me, I'm really glad that I didn't start with the Gupta program, because having that structure of doing an hour a day was what I needed at the time. But that's not to say that someone else might say the exact opposite thing. And so this is something I just wanted to share about, because it might help people decide which program is best for them. I think people who are really, really sick might do well with the shorter visualizations, whereas somebody that's a little bit more functional but still quite sick, DNRS might be a better choice. But that's a really big difference between the two programs, is the amount of time with the visualizations and the frequency of them. And so that just really depends on what you feel would work best for you. As for cons of the Gupta program, I would say that, it is a bit cheesy. So some people might not find it cheesy at all. I did, but it didn't bother me. So that's just kind of a heads up, something to look out for. And then the other con, I have to point it out, in his dietary recommendations, he recommends eliminating or limiting red meat, which I just don't agree with. As some of you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, before I started brain retraining, I did a strict carnivore diet and I ate only red meat for well over 8 months. And I did a strict carnivore diet for 1.5 years and mostly ate red meat during all that time. And even to this day, I'm eating red meat at pretty much every meal and eating it every day. And I believe, is one of the most nutrient dense and nourishing foods, and I don't like that it's often put in the category of processed foods and sugar. And so that's something I really don't like about the Gupta program, is that he recommends avoiding red meat. I'm sure that's something most people probably wouldn't even notice, but of course, someone like me who's benefited so much from eating so much red meat, I have to point it out. But overall, I'm really glad that I went through the Gupta program. I know a lot of people that have seen so much healing through implementing what they learned with the Gupta program, and I definitely would recommend it, as well as I would recommend DNRS. Both programs have their pros and cons, like I've talked about. Overall, I'd say the Gupta program is definitely more holistic and self-compassionate, but like I described earlier, there are reasons why I'm still very, very glad that I started with DNRS. Some of you have asked if I would recommend doing both programs, and I definitely would not recommend starting with both programs. I think that would be much too overwhelming. Personally, I waited, I think it was 4 or 5 months after I started DNRS before I started going through the Gupta program, and I'm really glad that I did that, because that helps me to just focus on what I learned in DNRS, implement that in my life. The reason why I decided to go through the Gupta program was just because I'm really passionate about nervous system regulation and brain retraining, and I wanted to know if there was anything different in the Gupta program that the DNRS program didn't teach, and it definitely did have things that I felt I was able to blend with DNRS. And so I'd say my current practice is just a mix of what I like from DNRS and what I like from Gupta and other nervous system regulation tools that I've learned about on my own. And so I'm not following one program specifically right now, but I'm definitely using the things that I learned from those programs pretty much every day. Oh, one more thing that I really like about the Gupta program is that he focuses a lot on slowing down, and this is something that I don't remember being discussed much in the DNRS program, and it was something when I went through the Gupta program that I really, really needed to hear. And he has lots of information about why it's so important to slow down, because the body can't heal when we're in a rush. And some of you might be thinking, well, I'm going really slow, I'm bedbound or whatever it is, but it's not just about physically slowing down. It's about mentally slowing down your thoughts, not being so hypervigilant with your thoughts, not being so desperate to research symptoms and find the answer to your health problems. I know that's really hard, but slowing down is actually signaling safety to your brain so that the brain can start to shift into that parasympathetic state where healing can take place. He calls it, I think, the slow motion technique, and recommends just doing everything 30% slower. So that's something I try to consciously think of, even if it's a busy day. If I'm doing the dishes or making dinner, I try to not do it in a rush, but I try to do it mindfully and just remember, like, I'm just making dinner, it's okay, I'm not in a rush. And just small things like that really add up and make a difference in continuing to help regulate the nervous system. And before I finish up the video, I want to share a couple of the notes that I made while going through the Gupta program that I thought were really impactful. This one says, our digestion and detoxification systems shut down when we're in fight or flight. This can increase toxicity in the body. This fight or flight system stays switched on, and the parasympathetic nervous system doesn't get a chance to heal or repair our body. This uses up all our energy. The brain becomes hypersensitive and hyperreactive. Because the brain is already on high alert, it's easy for us to learn to perceive new threats, behaviors, and responses. When there are symptoms in the body, it indicates that we're in danger, unless you tell the brain something different. Okay, I really like this one. It's a real physical illness, but the damage isn't long-lasting. The hardware of our body is fine. It's just an issue with the software. The condition can affect every single cell and organ in the body. Our minds hang on to this idea that we can't get better until we fix X, Y, and Z. Now that I'm looking through my notes, I remember a couple more things that I liked. So I felt like the GEPTA program did a really good job of giving advice for, I guess, getting back into normal life as you're healing and as your capacity for doing things increases. And then at the end of the program, he said, "You're an incredible human with all the resources inside you to heal. You deserve to live a happy, healthy life." I liked that he didn't claim that his program was what heals people. He was saying you have everything that you need inside of you to heal. And that's definitely aligns with how I see nervous system regulation and healing. So I really liked that he pointed that out. Okay, so that's my overall experience with the GEPTA program. I'll put the link to the program down below. I also have a discount code for the program. It's just RACH. No brain retraining course is going to be 100% perfect. Always just take what resonates with you and then leave the rest, and keep believing that healing is possible. I'm always rooting for you. I'm always cheering you on and hoping all the best for you. Make sure to subscribe and follow along on Instagram, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in another video very soon.